With the holidays past us, we share our new toys, hit the jackpot at the arcade, and get grossed out with Garbage Pail Kids. I'm Ryan,
I'm Andy.
and this is Weekend Rental, episode 142. All right, well, we made it through holiday season. You survived.
I did.
Any
It was
exciting happenings,
it
games,
was
horror
uh,
stories,
it was
disasters?
a Minnesota winter
Oh, it
for
was.
our area up here. So really cold, then really snowy, then it got cold. Not great, but what are you gonna do about it? We live here. We're stuck here. I don't know why we don't move away, but we don't.
We always ask ourselves that every 9 months.
Yep. And then even in the July sometimes you're just like, why do I live here?
Right.
Mosquitoes and heat but anyway, yeah, Christmas was good. Got a lot of cool games.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
You got or bought for the kids that you're also enjoying?
Yeah, that's kind of a mixed bag there.
Sure.
I got the kids Sonic Frontiers, but I'm the one that has been playing it the most, so I
I was gonna
guess that
say
doesn't count.
it's a very Andy sounding game.
Yep.
How is it?
I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
It's everybody says it's open world, and it kind of is, but there are levels of open world. So like once you accomplish all the goals on the island or whatever, it just resets you to a different island and you have to start over, basically, getting all the crystals and doing all the things.
So it's open level in like Mario Odyssey sort of way, where it's an open stage for you to attack.
Yeah, it's a lot bigger. Well, yeah, it's a little bit bigger, I would say, than Mario Odyssey
Okay.
levels are. However, they're not as vibrant and not as varied or cohesive because most of the levels are just like really very realistic worlds. Like here's this rainy island, here's this desert, here's this volcano, and they're all very realistic. And
Sure.
then there's just like rails and shit all over, scattered all over the in the sky.
Just a cartoony blue hedgehog for no reason.
Yeah, exactly.
How do they explain that? Are you in like some weird dimension or?
Yeah, it's like a cyberspace thing.
Okay.
Yeah. And then all your friends are trapped, so you have to go help all your friends, which equates to just gathering a certain collectible, going to your friend, getting a cutscene, gathering more collectibles, rinse and repeat until you get all the Chaos Emeralds, and then you're basically done with that world. But yeah, there's something addictive about the system where they have rails and stuff. Usually there's there'll be a couple springs and a couple things that you need to do, and just to get one certain collectible. And I think that part is probably the best part of the game, where they're like really tiny little challenges.
Okay.
For each thing. Most of them are pretty easy, but as I'm getting farther into the game, some of these quick time events are harder to hit. And yeah, it's pretty good in that respect. The rest of the game, I don't know. It's fine.
How does it control? Like comparing it to say like Adventure, does it feel tighter than Adventure, or is it about the same?
Oh, yeah, it's a lot tighter than Adventure.
Okay.
However, once you get into areas where you need to like land on a platform in the sky and you're also in the sky,
it becomes hell.
Half the time, like there's not even a shadow, so it's like, well, I don't even know where I am in this space,
Sure.
So that's very rough. You also have to go into singular levels that are more like the classic Sonic.
Side scrolling.
I say that in kind of quotes because a lot of them are just like run forward and do the homing attack thing,
Sure.
which is kind of, I don't know, those later Sonics that are a lot of the. There are a couple side scrolling ones in there, but they're not as good because there's too much going on. I feel like you get too many graphics on a side scrolling thing like that, and you're like, I'm not even sure what thing I can jump on or
Yeah.
stand on or do anything. But those are all right. And they also have, their S rank challenges and all that stuff where you have to get the rings and the speed and all that. But
So do you think this is an actual step forward for 3D Sonic, or is this just a weird offshoot?
I think so. If they could make a open world that was just one giant one, like, I mean, I don't know why they couldn't just have these as, a loading screen in between.
Right.
It just sucks that
Probably
it's
for
like,
the same
okay,
reason they haven't been able to make a good 3D Sonic game in 20
yeah,
years.
yeah, that's probably a lot to do with it. But I don't know. There's something about like getting all the Chaos Emeralds, beating a boss, really, the bosses I'll say are pretty good. There's a lot of big uh mini bosses throughout the map that are kind of almost like Shadow of the Colossus style, where you have to like basically run up these giants to,
Really?
yeah. And those are kind of fun.
Speaking of big, how's our buddy Big the Cat?
I haven't got to him yet.
Oh, that sounds fabulous.
I know. Apparently there's fishing spots around that you can go fishing with Big the Cat, but I've not come across him yet. Maybe that's for the good, but
If you looked for the porta potties, maybe he's in there waiting for you to start fishing.
We'll get to that later.
Yeah. More to come.
Yep. But yeah, I think if they refine on this, I think they maybe have something.
Okay.
They need to have a bigger, more the RPG structure of like unlocking some skills. There is a skill tree in here, but it's very like
Doesn't change enough.
Yeah, it gives you new combos to use, and that's kind of nice. But at the same time, like you burn through them really fast, and you hardly ever use them anyway.
Sure.
So if they actually did something bigger than that, that'd be good.
Well, that's cool. I mean, it's nice that they tried to add that in. I suppose there was like a lot of, I mean, it very much looks like a game where they had a lot of ideas and they didn't really fully realize a lot of it. So, yeah, maybe if they get to a second one, I think the thing that surprised me is like they really pushed this as like a major release, and then it was like $25 inside of like 2 weeks.
Yeah,
so
that was weird.
Yeah, I hope they're recouping their costs.
Mm-hmm.
Because we probably won't get another one like this if they're hemorrhaging money on it. But
I think it sold really well, but it should at that cost, I would say.
It had a lot of hype, which is funny because it had a lot of like press bashing leading up to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was almost no good publicity from certain camps. So, but everybody who's played it seems to be like, well, yeah, it's a good thing for the most part.
It's just fun. Just like, I mean, you really can go fast if you get all your rings maxed out.
Well, you gotta go fast.
Yeah, you can really fly around that map, and that's kind of fun. And then just hitting every spring and rail and all that stuff. There's a lot of fun.
I'd like to see him do that, but then just like lean into like the 30 years of like Sonic lore. Like, I don't know why they don't lean into the fun sides of like the Sonic universe anymore with like weird little villages and like hot dog stands. And there's no reason he can't be in a 3D era and also have a more upbeat tone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's weird.
His voice actor is kind of off.
Oh, really? Not the usual guy?
Yeah. It's a little like, oh, okay. It's like a guy trying to do that.
Interesting.
Which obviously what he's trying to do, but it's off.
A little bit of a Chris Pratt situation going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you? Did you get anything?
So I got my usual 8-bit Christmas NES cart, which I haven't played yet. It's like Grinch themed this year. I don't know what the game is about, but I haven't looked into it. I'll play it probably July is usually when I get around to like dusting those off, sometimes a year later. But then I bought myself, because it was on sale over the holidays through Sam's Club. I bought that At Games Legends pinball table as a treat to myself, and that arrived just after Christmas,
Mm.
the Wednesday after. And that thing's, I'm very pleasantly surprised. I think most people who have been in retro gaming and think At Games just remember the decades
Yeah.
of absolute trash they put out. But with these arcade cabinets, they've actually done a good job. And yeah, this thing's 3/4 size. It's got like the metal rails up on top, so it feels like you've got your hands like a full size pinball table. Like the scale is good. Like it's the right size to not feel off. I think if it was smaller, like the arcade one-ups, it'd feel weird.
Hmm.
And then they've got a nice tempered glass finish on top, and the screen's probably 2.5 inches inlaid into the table. So you've got like this kind of depth of field, and it's got a back screen with display, built-in leaderboards, built-in bring your own game options. You can pass through PC to do like pinball effects stuff through Steam. I mean, tons and tons of options, endlessly customizable. But what you get out of the box is 22 tables from Gottlieb. And I think that's the big caveat with this one, is unless you're going to go the Steam route and modding route, you're not going to get, like, you're going to get tables you recognize, right? But you're not going to be able to purchase the big ones, right? Like there's no Stern, there's no Williams. Those aren't on here natively. But they do have a store. So you get 22 tables, like I said, from Gottlieb. I've played a few of them. They're fine. They're okay. What I will say is they're probably the laziest in terms of like conversion to digital. They do a lot of like detailed shots of like the play field and like photorealism, but they don't flesh out like the 3D part like enough. There's not enough detail, in my opinion, on a lot of those tables to really enhance like the bumpers and make them pop out, or the lighting on the ball itself. That's not to say they're bad. It's just once you start playing some of the other things that are available on there, you realize how lazy the first 22 tables are.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then there's a ton of tables from Zachariah, which again is another lesser known, but very heavy in like the era of tables that I like, which is like the golden era, with like the bells and like the very simple, where you're mostly playing against gravity instead of the table itself. And those are cool because those packs have like sometimes they'll do like a reimagining. So you'll get like a notable table of theirs, but then they'll do 3 versions of it. They'll do like, well, here's this table from like whatever year, but we're going to do a version as if it was built in like 2018 using existing parts. Or sometimes they'll go to like the 80s with it, like an update a golden era table. So they reimagine it, and then they'll also do like a demake. So then you'll get like a golden era version of that, where it's just like, again, gravity against the table. So you get like these 3 variants. It's really cool. And I've ended up buying a few packs of those, but I think like the real showpiece is the Taito stuff here. There's 3 Taito table packs. And they cover all the stuff you'd want, like Bubble Bobble, Space Invaders, Operation Wolf, Elevator Action. And what's cool is, every one of those packs, like, there's traditional tables, and they'll base them on like a certain era. You can kind of tell the style of pinball table they were going for. But then in all of those, there's one where it's almost like an RPG. You're playing pinball, but you're playing for hit points against the table. So like in Operation Wolf, Space Invaders, and Bubble Bobble, those 3 tables in particular, enemies spawn on the table. So this is stuff that could only exist in digital. And then they start lumbering towards hit boxes lower on the table next to your paddles. So you've got to use the table to your advantage to try and hit markers and get combos to launch attacks at them, or you can just smack them with your ball. But either way, you've got like 2 ways to lose. You can fuck up and drop the ball down the hole, or you can take too much damage and then your game's over. So it turns into like this really frantic and strategic experience that you're not going to get on a traditional table.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, and it's great because it's like all the iconic music and stuff too, and sound effects in the background that you love. So those I think are the highlight. I also bought a Dr. Seuss pack, which was the most expensive. It only came with 3 tables, but those are like bonkers, like crazy detailed,
I can't
hyper.
imagine the rails and slides on that
Oh
thing.
yeah, and it's just like full of stuff that would only exist in digital. But that said, the whole experience, even on the traditional tables and stuff, is great. We spent I spent a lot of last week playing tables, because it's nice because you can like sit there and really get a feel for the table, because you're not worrying about quarters and stuff. It's got it's got like a sound. It's not like a haptic feedback, but it's like a sound feedback thing for the bumpers. So if you're resting your palms in there, you'll feel it like in the table. It uses it's like a bass or something to kind of give you the vibration.
Oh, cool.
And it's got 3 nudge buttons, one on each side, and then a front nudge. You can also use haptic and like hit the table, which I tend not to do because I feel weird about like smacking like a $700 arcade machine when there's a button. But yeah, we had a blast. New Year's Eve day, we spent a couple hours as a family just going through tables on that thing and doing 4-player competitions for high scores, and it's awesome. I had tempered expectations for it, but I think it might be one of my favorite things that I bought. Like it's definitely out of all the arcade cabinets and arcade one-ups I own and have bought, this is like by far the best.
Really? Huh.
Yeah. And like it's just nice because I've always wanted a pinball table and I still want a real one, but realistically, this is much more feasible and economical.
Yeah. Yeah. And not constantly having to maintenance and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you get used to like my big thing was always the digital ones, just the ball, just the physics just felt off a little bit. There was like not enough weight in the ball or something.
Yeah.
Do you just get used to it?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of adjustments on these as far as the weight of the ball, but I would say like in most of the tables and the packs here, they've done a really good job of making it feel appropriate. I don't know, like, because I'm somebody who's played a lot of like the Pinball FX and stuff too, and like the Stern collections. It just somehow feels more correct, I guess, in this format. And I don't know if it's just because they put more effort into the weight of the ball, but things seem to come off the pins right. Um, I mean, it's definitely slightly different. You get a hiccup here and there, but yeah, you kind of get a feel for how the ball's going to go and like come off the table.
Yeah.
It's an adjustment for sure. But and yeah, and learning how to use nudge to your advantage is very important on a lot of these tables because it's a lot, especially like the built-in ones are so old school, like they're not very forgiving.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of hole shots.
So what does a pack usually run cost wise?
So 25, all the packs are everything they sell in their store is $25, but they had a sale for the new year where they were all 25% off. So it was like $20 a pack. I bought 5 of them or 6 of them. I will say the interface is very good overall, but the purchasing is the weakest part. So there's like this subscription thing you can do and like have access to ArcadeNet and all these online arcade games, which even if you don't pay for that, you get a free sampling. So it's really hilarious when you're playing like a vertical or a side-scrolling shooter on your pinball table with like a D-pad. I've been doing that. I could also play King of Fighters. I don't think that would work out well. But the store is awful. So like once you're in the store on the table, I can't remember what it's called, like Arcade X or whatever is the store, right? But you go to the store and it shows you the packs. And even though you've registered and created an account with them, you can't purchase anything on the table. So you have to go to their website, which is this rinky-dink, sketchy-ass website. And then you have to pay for it out there. And then you get 2 or 3 emails from the company, one of which contains your code. So now you take this code that you got in an email. Hopefully it didn't go to your junk, which it probably will. And you'll have to get it out of there. And then you have to go back to the table. Then you have to find the pack that you purchased digitally. Then you have to press the correct button to pull up a menu that gives you the option to redeem a code on that table. And then you have to key that in on your pinball table.
Oh, wow.
And then you get your table. It's the most fucking convoluted, stupid. Like I had to watch a YouTube video to understand how this worked. And I was like, okay, like it's passable. Like I can live with it, but it is so jank.
That's bad though if that's like your
Yeah.
That's your longevity product, you know?
Yeah. Well, and then the other thing that I noticed that sucks too is like when you buy those, they give you the option to tie everything to your arcade ID or the device. So if I tied it to the device, it's device only, right? Like if something happened to my table, it'd be lost. So I can tie it to my ID, and then I have the ability to install it on up to 6 machines that run this interface, so all the arcade lines. But the problem is like you do that, well, then it automatically associates it with your online ID. So if it loses connection to your internet, like it's done to me a couple times, you can't play the tables you already owned and tied to your ID. So then you have to go back to the arcade app store and then say that you want to play them in offline mode, but then it disassociates everything from your ID. So if you wanted to reinstall them on another device, you have to sign back in. So it's like this super, because eventually, like I'm not like in some fantasy world where I think that their online infrastructure is going to exist in 10 years. I'll be surprised if it exists in 5 years. But like just knowing that at some point it's not going to exist and I'm gonna have to like manually go in and like download everything I put on, like tied to my ID, is like super annoying. So yeah, that stuff kind of sucks, but it's only disconnected once or twice for me, so it hasn't been a huge deal. But
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of dumb.
Mm-hmm. But they built in online leaderboards and stuff so you can see your global standings. All that's kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's cool. It's well built. It's a little short, but I haven't adjusted the legs fully up either. I think I could get it another inch or so up, but it's not quite like the hip height you'd have for a full machine, which I guess makes sense since it's 3/4 size. But
yeah, usually you, yeah, I'm jealous. I had my hand on the buy button on that thing, but
yeah, you'll have to check it out. I think you'd be impressed.
Yeah,
I'm sure they'll go on sale again.
Yeah. So, do you think you could? Is there somebody that has like transformed these tables into ROMs and
I
load them on there somehow?
I got to imagine, right? Because like just the way that you can. So that's the other thing too is like if I was going to do not through their store and get dual display, because I'm assuming if I did ROM, I'd probably have to push it. I got to look into it more, but I think I'd have to push it off a PC or like a Pi. But you do have to buy like another $90 board to be able to split your monitor display. Like it's basically just a PCB board that gives you like dual screens so that you could use both the high back and the low back for the playfield. Not that you'd need the scoreboard. Like, would I care if I had a laptop sitting there with like the scoreboard? Probably not.
Yeah.
But I gotta imagine at least on the PC, somebody's got like all these things just sitting there. I'm gonna have to do some more research. There is like you can Bluetooth controller anything in. I can plug a PlayStation or an Xbox controller in through USB. And then they actually even sell like a $90 arcade joystick thing that plugs into the top of the playfield. So right now, like there's a D-pad built in, and then it replaces that with a joystick and like 6 buttons. And then you can play whatever you want on it, right? So you'd have like 2 scale, like Burger Time, like any of those vertical games would look great on there. But I'm just like, I have enough shit that does that. Like, I just want this thing to look like a pinball table. So I'm not going to go too nuts on a lot of this stuff, but I would like to figure out how to get way more pinball games in there for not a lot of money, as your question leads to. Because I'm done spending money on it, at least until there's like a fire sale on their store. But
yeah, I didn't know that part, that you could Bluetooth things in. Otherwise, I would have bought it and just bolted it to the to the wall. Then you could just have it on the wall, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, there's so they even sell like even though like those like Legends at games, like the ones that were on fire sales on like GameStop last year for like $50 and whatever, like that will just connect to it too. Like apparently like all the at game stuff is just like super connective. So I don't know, but I just can't imagine, like, do you really want to sit there and like stand around a pinball table and like stare down at like an arcade game? It just that feels like it'd be weird. So
well, it might be the ultimate Tate mode, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be cool for that. I'm definitely going to throw some ROMs on a thumb drive because I think their emulation is very good at just adapting to, like, I think it's more intuitive than MAME, at least as far as like it just recognizing and trying to go for the chord that it thinks is going to work. So I'm gonna try throwing a bunch of stuff on there.
Hmm.
Because yeah, even if you're just bored one day and just wanted to stand by it and play a little, beat 'em up action for a little bit or something. But yeah, I'm more
Yeah.
interested in getting shooters on there if I could. But
Yeah, I could see that being cool.
yeah. So far I'm just really liking playing pinball. I've been playing every day.
Yeah,
Fun.
that sounds awesome.
Yeah. It kinda is.
Hmm.
We also played another game though that was less awesome on New Year's Eve day.
Oh.
And I
Oh no.
introduced my family to a party.
Oh
A
no.
Mario Party.
We're talking 64?
Now Switch.
Okay.
So I had to bust out my Joy-Con. I bought like those Zelda Joy-Con. It's the only extra set of Joy-Con I ever bought because you can only play with the Joy-Con. Why? Because Nintendo hates you. So I had to charge all those. Yeah, I charged all those up. I then went to put the game in my Switch, and that's when I discovered that my ungrateful fucking little monsters of children ripped my kickstand off my Switch. That's just gone. Nobody has an answer as to why, which that put me in a really good mood. So it was just like looking at my kids. I was like, I know one of you guys broke it off. Just tell me who did it. Nobody said anything. It's just like silence. And I'm like, well, let's play some fucking Switch then. I was just like pissed. Like, God damn. So yeah, I don't know. I was like, you guys both have Switches. Take care of like break your own Switches. Leave mine alone.
Yep.
So
but that's the best way to start a Mario Party is already
pissed. Yeah, everyone on the couch is pissed. Kids are pissed at dad. Mom's pissed at dad for being pissed at the kids. I'm pissed at everybody. So yeah, we start Mario Party. Nobody's played it. And Ryder and I, like my son has the exact same mentality that I do in that those games are bullshit because it doesn't matter what you do, how good you do. It's all chance and you're going to get fucked every which way from loose. So my wife can't understand the mini games. My daughter just keeps winning every game because she'll get like the bonus things and whatever. And then this new game has a quality of life feature where it like gives you a preview on how to play each mini game, right? Great idea. Except it requires every player to like hit the bumpers to ready up. So my family would sit there and just endlessly play this like preview. I'm like, guys,
let's
go. I'm like, this isn't the game. Let's ready up already. So yeah, that was a shit show. It basically just escalated into we played 2 rounds of 10 moves each. And it was just increasingly toxic and more volatile. Like the longer we played, like people were screaming, like it was getting more ugly. Like nobody was having fun. My son walked out at one point because he was just like so pissed at how unfair this was. And like, I'd be trying to give like my kids advice and like, don't do that because this and this and this. My wife would be just like, oh yeah, you want to take that? Like you just screwed the kid. Like you told her to go the wrong direction. Now she goes in an endless loop and misses her chance to get the star. And all this to say, Mario Party still sucks. And I was right when I played it the first time back in the N64 days, and that it's a garbage, boring, awful experience. And it destroys families, at least ours. So,
yep.
I hate it.
Which one did you play? Super Mario Party?
Whatever new one's on the Switch.
Superstars? The Superstars one?
Yeah, I don't know what it's called. And we just played the traditional Mario Party mode. So,
yep.
Still terrible.
Yeah, it's my son has the Superstars one and he likes playing the mini games.
Sure.
But like going in and picking the ones that he wants to play.
Yeah, totally reasonable.
Play these mini games. None of that other bullshit attached to it. Just go in and play the mini games. Go for it. But yeah, the party stuff, he was the same way. Like he was upset that other people were getting coins when they were, they went the wrong direction, or they, or they missed a star by one turn, or whatever the fact is.
Yeah, because it's like it's not even good in like a board game sort of way. Like there's no strategy to it. Like it's like life. It's like Life the game. Life is one of those board games where it's all chance, and if you get the right things off the get-go, you're gonna win, and that's all Mario Party is. It's just a bunch of random sequences, and then inevitably one person's always like way behind the playfield. That person's never going to get a star unless they happen to get like a magic power up or something. It's just stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. And then at the very end, when they're like, oh, let's do the awards.
Yes.
Here's a star. Here's a star. Here's a star.
They turn the game on its head. Like, it just completely throws everything out the window that you just spent an hour doing.
Yeah.
It's the worst. I don't know why there's so many of those. And I genuinely don't understand why people love them. They're just not fun.
So this last one it has boards from all the N64 ones and, other, like they were remaking them.
Sure.
And then they never put out another update. Like what in the world are we doing if you're just making this one-off thing? I thought for sure they were like, oh yeah, a month later, here's the new board, here's a new thing.
Maybe they'll surprise you in like another year of expansion pass
man.
where they just throw in a bunch of new ones.
Yeah,
they did it with Mario Kart like 10 years later, right?
Yeah, it's true.
It just blows my mind too that this is the first time they've managed to get online play in. I mean, how the Mario Party games weren't online by the Wii just blows my fucking mind.
Yeah.
Like you had an online storefront, but you couldn't let people play online together. Come on.
Yeah. But I mean, you look how mad you were playing with the people that you love. Like, could you imagine playing this with strangers?
That's true.
But you don't even know
hopefully they remove voice
doing.
chat. Otherwise, it's just like profanity nonstop.
They're probably sitting on their phone, just, waiting and not even pressing buttons. Who even knows?
Yeah. That was another fun conversation over break too, as my son was walking around playing Fortnite on his Switch, headset on. I'm like, oh, what you doing? I'm like, because I've told him, like, you don't play Fortnite online with other people. Like, you just don't do that. He's like, oh, I'm talking to Lily, his sister. She's down in the basement. I was like, okay, that's reasonable. So then pretty soon, like, I had most of last week off. So my daughter comes up about 10:30, 11 in the morning, hops in the shower, and I can hear my son from his bedroom still talking to people. I'm like, that's weird. So I knock on his door. I'm like, hey, thought you were chatting with your sister. It's weird because she's in the shower. I'm pretty sure she's not playing Fortnite in there. So then he tries to quickly backpedal. I'm like, oh no, it's this friend from school. I was like, oh, what's his name? Takes him a while. I'm like, well, that's cool. How did you add him to your friends list? Do you know how to do that on Nintendo Switch? And he's just like, well, yeah. I'm like, dude, like, you need to stop lying. First of all, you suck at it, and everybody can tell. And so he was pissed. I was like, just don't, dude. It's another kid. I'm like, yeah, you think it's another kid. Like, you don't know.
Yep.
So he wasn't real pleased with that.
Plus, you're not missing anything. Like,
no,
I don't want to play that way either.
Yeah. So. There's a lot of stupid crap you miss out on. Yeah. So I don't know. I think we resolved that issue. We'll see. Wasn't impressed though. Between that, because it was the same or the next. So that was the day before, and then the next day the broken Switch thing. So I threw that back in his face. I was like, you sure you're not lying to me again? You lied to me about playing Fortnite. He's just like, no. I'm like, all right. Frustrating.
Yeah. We played a family game.
Oh?
That was a little bit better than your Mario Party experience, I'd say.
About anything would be.
We picked up on the Steam sale Rift Tracks, the game.
What is that? Is that board game they used to have?
No. So do you know what Rift Tracks is?
No.
Okay. So it's the people half the people that were behind Mystery Science Theater.
Okay.
They just made their own thing. And basically you can buy their tracks and they basically talk over every movie. They do commentaries about this, but sure. They also still do the same old, dumbass like B movies from whenever, and commentate over them. So what they did is they made it into kind of like a Jackbox game.
Okay.
Where they have different clips from their episodes, and then they'll show the movie clip and then they'll put like insert riff here. and then
Okay.
everybody on their phone has to write, a good riff on that.
Yeah, I think I've
And
seen some of this. It's all like black and white, old like stock footage and things.
yeah,
Or
some of it is.
okay.
There's some newer stuff. It's kind of all over the place.
Yeah, I think
Just
there's
different
like that
movies
use
I've
your
seen.
words or whatever that was similar to this, right? A couple years ago.
Yeah, I think so. It might be the same people. I'm not sure, but
Okay.
yeah, it's pretty fun.
So did you play that with your kids?
Yes.
Were they able to
So
come up with some zingers, or how did that go?
yeah, so that's the best. That's kind of the best part about so far this year. It's like they're finally to the age where they can read and write
Right.
and actually kind of do sentences. So they're actually able to play these. We did try some Jackbox games, but even those are like some of those get really complex, and it's like, what's going on here? And they have a shorter timer. But this one was perfect, because they just can write whatever they want,
Right.
and most of it's like poop related
Oh
or
yeah. I mean, of course.
something like that. Or they also have like you can quickly add like uh, some FX that they have. They're just basically some sound clips, like a fart or
Okay.
whatever. And most of it was just like brah and yeet and just, yeah, burps and
So let me ask you this: how many times have you been disturbed by what your children put in?
I don't know about disturbed, but like thinking like, in what way were you thinking this clip? Like I couldn't understand in what reality that they were trying to view this one short video clip.
That's
But
funny.
it was massively entertaining, and
Nice. I can see
some
that
good
being good.
laugh.
We also over the holiday break, similarly, I guess, to your story with the reading and the comprehension, started playing Cards Against Humanity with our kids. That is
Yeah.
that also gets pretty out of hand pretty quick.
We don't want them chatting on
Well, and the funny thing
live,
is,
but
the funny thing is they have the kids version of Cards Against Humanity, but it's
sure,
still like you can go all sorts of places with that. It is not,
you know,
it's not PG at all. So it's mostly just like playing up to like your audience, I think, in that one.
yeah, oh yeah, for sure, yeah. I mean, that's the thing with most of these games is like you can tell usually where it came from.
Right. So I
I mean,
assume this
they
is like that game is similar in where everybody votes at the end of a round or one person's making the call and it moves
yeah,
on.
yeah, everybody votes for their favorite ones.
That sounds pretty awesome.
And usually the kids vote for each other and then the parents vote for the others because I guess different styles of comedy going on in there. But
Nice. That sounds cool.
yeah.
I'm gonna have to check that one out. I don't know if I have enough smartphone devices to make it work, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good time.
You been playing anything else then?
Um so I picked up uh a game that was on Switch that was really cheap. It was like 99 cents or something like that.
I paid $2.99 for it and the sequel.
You did, huh?
Yes, like 4 months ago, 5 months ago.
Really? Okay. So I've was it you that told me about this game then?
So
I've
yeah, the
heard of
game. Yeah, well, the game we should probably mention the game. It's Dadish, which you're playing as a dad, Radish, and his kids run away, and then it's just kind of like this cute little platformer, right?
yeah, kind of Super Mario World-esque
I just love the
graphic.
shit that the kid and the dad say back and forth to each other. Like like he'll basically like call his kids a dumbass to their face. They're like,
Yeah.
shucks. Yeah, it's. I don't. Have you played through it all the way?
I'm about in the last world, I think, on the first one.
Okay, yeah. Not incredibly long games, but the pacing's good. The level design is good. I feel like super cute, tight controls. Yeah, I think it's like maybe a 2.5 hour game, but
Yep. It's
yeah,
starting to ramp up difficulty toward the end
yeah,
there where you really got to like really get your controls right.
yep,
Almost Meat Boy-esque at that point, but
yeah. And the bosses aren't overwhelming. They're just more of an
no.
endurance run than anything
Yeah, the
on
bosses
some
are
of
pretty
them.
easy.
But yeah, they're very cool games. I guess there's three of them. I think the third one might be like 3D ish. But I've only purchased the first two, beat the first one, never gotten into the second one yet.
Yep. So I picked all 3 of them up on Steam after I bought it on Switch because they
Okay.
were all still
Way
on sale
cheap.
on Switch, yeah, or on Steam, so I picked them up there. So I'll probably get through them. My, kids really like them a lot
Yeah.
too. Same reasons, I mean, you get to the end and you see their kid and, the dad's calling them idiot kids, and the kids are like, "I wish you would die," and like,
I like the
in
first
a
one.
cute way.
Yeah, I like the first one you run into too. He's like, you didn't make it very far. He's like, I'm the laziest of all your children. He's like,
Yep,
oh, good to know.
yep. I think my favorite one is when you save them, they're like, "Oh, look at all these enemies, like those French fries. They're pretty great, aren't they?" And you're like, they tried to kill me."
You're
And he's
right.
like, "Yep, yep, pretty great."
Yeah, you'll have to let me know when you get to the third one. I'm curious how different it is, but I do need to get back into that. My son's actually been working on. It's funny because like you put it on the list, and my son's been playing it this last week too, trying to complete it. So, but yeah,
Yeah,
that was my nighttime like bedtime game for a while. I knocked it out in like 4 days. I just lay in bed and put like 40 minutes into it.
yep. Yeah, they're really well designed.
Yeah, it'd be cool to see like a physical collection at some point.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And then I, went crazy on Steam too because I'm like, "Well, if this cheap game is that good, what about all these other cheap games that were like
surely they're all
50 cents?"
good.
Yeah. So, we'll see. I haven't gotten through any of those, but
Yeah, I
that's
didn't
always
even
a that's always a fun time.
I didn't even check out the Steam sale. We so what we did do one day during the break too is like we got that Kingpin's arcade like bowling place that opened up. Well, they do happy hour on their arcade games where it's like half price all day from like 11 to 3 or whatever. So realistically, you're never making it over there during happy hour because kids have school and whatnot. But
Mhm.
we went over Christmas break, got there right when they opened, and like my daughter and my wife are just like arcade gurus. Like they've got like certain games cornered where they're like hitting the jackpot like every play or every other play. So we went there and spent like 2.5 hours at the arcade, and we walked out. And keep in mind, like we didn't cash in any of our tokens because it's like the store was wiped because it started filling up, right? Like everyone's on break, so the store was just devastated. But we walked out of there with 30,000 tickets. So, like, to give you context to what 30,000 tickets is, there's like a Nerf gun is like 5,000. So we just like crushed
Oh,
this thing.
wow.
So we got like a ton of points to spend. Like everybody's hitting jackpots. Like my son was like putting stuff in first time, hitting like jackpots on games that I didn't even know was possible to jackpot on. They were like nailing it. It's kind
Wow.
of impressive. It was a hell of a run. But
Could
there was
get
like,
Tootsie Rolls by the bag now.
yeah, there's like one game in particular. It's like one of those knocking games where it's like the sphere thing, and you like hit the button so the stick like slowly swipes through and drops the main prize. And my daughter and my wife have that like on lock. So they would hit it, and then like you'd be out of commission for like 10 minutes while it counted out your tickets for you, and like the lights flash. And then as soon as that was off, they were like vultures, like running back to that machine to like knock it back in
Really?
again. It was crazy. It was a good time. I was impressed. And I was just mostly impressed that I was able to reason with my kids finally, so they don't just like have to blow the points. So it's been nice.
So you're gonna quit your job?
I'm pretty sure, yeah. Like we talked about that, and I think we can realistically recoup selling on this online about 70% of what we put into it. So, if I do the math on what we have in savings, I probably could make it like 3-4 months
Yep.
at that loss rate. It'd be fine. Maybe I'll start selling drugs on the side, make it a permanent thing.
Yep.
Because I
I
mean,
well,
you want to
you'd have
peddle
to get
drugs
the
at the
happy hour.
arcade.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, if you only ever play at happy hour and you only order pizza and appetizers during happy hour, it's half price. So you can really stretch your budget. Yeah.
I like this plan.
It was pretty good. But that's exactly what my wife said. She's like, we should just start selling this stuff. I was like, yeah, we're still gonna lose. Still losing so much money. Squishmallows don't go for that much in the secondary market.
Yep. At least it's something.
Yeah.
Most of the time you walk out of there and it's like, this is It's
Yeah,
like
well,
a
and that's
dollar.
yeah, that's the thing is like I know they're gonna come out with like I mean, granted, we probably put like $100 into play cards for them, but we'll probably walk out with realistically $80 in merch. So I can
That's
kind of
pretty good.
justify that for the time spent. So but we figured we'd go back like in a week or two when they've had the store like replenished and kids are back in school. So
Yep.
I got my eye on a Mario desk light. So it's only 7,000 tickets. I think I deserve that.
Yep. Does the local casino have happy hour for kids
Oh, I should find
on their
out.
machines?
Should find out.
Gambling half off?
Yeah. I mean, my kids are probably going to be like, yeah, slot machine addicts at this point. So, because my son's really good at the, like, I don't know what they're called, but it's like, yeah, the drop a coin game. Like, he just crushes on that.
Oh, those things are awesome, yeah.
Yeah. They're really fun. So, he was killing
Except
it.
they're like kind of not as manual as they are used to be. Like some of the new
Yeah.
ones are just like press a button and they randomly come out at certain times.
Yep. And that's what this one is, too. It's like timing the button press to, like, it hitting the ramp, but yeah, no control over the ramp or anything, which is kind of lame.
Yeah.
And then speaking of lame, I know you've watched some stuff over since the last time too, but have you checked out the newest season of Letterkenny?
Don't say that. Lame?
It is unquestionably the worst season of Letterkenny
Oh
by
no.
a good margin. It's 6 episodes long. I People are disagreeing with me around the office, but I strongly feel the first 3 episodes of season 11 are worse than Fart Book, which I consider to be the low point in the series. I would put them under Fart Book. To the point where, like, as excited as I was to keep watching Letterkenny, I had to stop because I was like, I haven't laughed once in 3 episodes. These are all
Ooh, that's
terrible.
rough.
And I don't know if it was just like he was busy filming Shoresy at the same time, so like the focus was gone. But like you don't even get into what I would consider a traditional episode or a traditional feeling episode until the last three. And then I enjoyed those more, but I don't know if I enjoyed them because they were actually good episodes or I was just so happy that they weren't the first 3 episodes. And I think it's probably the latter. It was
That sucks.
I think they jumped the shark like big time.
Hmm.
A lot of emphasis on side characters too. Like I don't need that much Glenn. I'm sick of the Skids. I definitely
Yeah.
don't need that much Gale.
Yeah.
I think it's over.
That's a bummer because, like, even though I didn't even go to the end of where it was before, because even those were getting a little bit, I don't know, not as tight and quick-witted as they used to be. It was like, let's spend 5 minutes on this wordplay, and it's like, okay, I got the joke right away, and now
right.
it's
Yeah, that's the thing is like the cold opens on a lot of these were bad too. Like usually the cold open is like a guaranteed laugh, and like these were not that. So and then it ends like it always ends every season, which is like a fist fight. So it's like, yeah, I got to do that, and it's like, well, cool, a slow mo fist fight, a bunch of guys jumping out of a truck. I'm like, yeah, it's every season. Come on.
What holiday was it though?
No holiday. Or was it? I'm trying to remember. The last episode wasn't great. But yeah, I don't know. It was really disappointing. And I'm like a huge, like I can binge that all day long and I just couldn't do it. Hopefully they either end it or they come back strong for like one more season.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a bummer.
Yeah, especially when you wait. All like when they announced it was dropping on the 26th, which I guess it always does, the day after Christmas. Yeah, disappointing. I did love. You got HBO Max, right?
Yep.
Did you catch This Place Rules?
No.
Oh my god.
What's this one about?
So This Place Rules is the All Gas No Brakes Channel 5 guy.
Oh, really?
It's his documentary. He worked with Tim and Eric on it some too. I mean, they're not in it or anything, but it's all basically like here's how I saw America unraveling as we led up to January 6th as I saw it. And it's like him going to like Black Lives Matter stuff. It's him going to stop the steal stuff. And it's just like him doing his thing where he's like objectively pretty quiet, even though you can tell like he kind of loses in this one. Like he's in situations where he's just like, even he looks at the camera and he's just like shaking his head like, people are gonna die here. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's just like,
Really?
I can't believe what I'm hearing. Like he does some amazing stuff. Like he goes in like a QAnon household where these people have like brainwashed all their kids, and the guy's like going through like the dark web and deciphering QAnon codes. He's like showing it to him. He's like, hey, I see they spelled sacrifice wrong. Do you suppose that's a hidden meaning too? He's like, oh, of course. These people are geniuses. But I think the best is he gets Alex Jones drunk off his ass and has him like bare shirt, like benching and like chugging booze at the same time. It's kind of amazing.
Wow.
And it's like, it's this like super sad public display of like how fucked our country is. Because you can watch that and you're going to fall into two camps. You can watch that and understand that. And then there's going to be the people that watch that and still believe everything that the insane people are saying.
Yeah.
So that's like the always the double edged like sadness to the reality of America anymore. But it is like, if you're a level headed person, like it is like, it is shocking. Like the things that people say and like some of the stuff he caught on film. And I don't know. I don't know why he put himself in the situations he did. Like, cause he was at like ground zero on some of those like fights in DC and like, it was nuts.
Yeah, he's constantly getting, I mean, for a guy who's made a living basically being a microphone stand,
Yeah.
he's he has balls to go where the microphone should go.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And it was like some of the most toxic mega stop the steal, like some speeches that I didn't even like, because they're banned on every other platform, right? Like you just like they just don't exist in most places. And
Yeah.
but I mean, he was like super insightful about it too. He's like, you could see what was happening. You know, he's like, it was left media and right media, and everybody's saying this is war, and everybody's gonna like everybody. They're building people to pit it against each other and turn it into a war. He's like, you take the people on the right who are like conspiracy theorists, well, you deplatform them, and all you're doing is like pushing them into tighter and tighter echo chambers so that all they're hearing is more of what they want to, you know. It's like, so like it wasn't that hard to understand exactly what happened. It's still completely unacceptable that it did. And the fact that it's played out the way it did, and by that I just mean how people aren't incarcerated and where we're still at 2 years later blows my mind. It makes no logical sense because it's people arguing conspiracy theories against facts. Like this is another like perfect example of like, it's not him telling a narrative. Like he recorded people saying and doing these things as a matter of fact. Like it's just objectively facts. Like how some of these people have gotten away with it. It's just, I don't know. I like that he had I think it was the Antifa guy. He basically had him on camera saying like, oh yeah, I sell merch for both sides. Like, he's like, I may or may not have websites that sell like Biden stuff too. And like, it's like, you're such a sleaze bucket.
Wow. It's just, yeah, that's like most of his videos. I feel like they're like entertaining to watch. And like some of them, the people are truly like interesting people.
Yeah.
Some of them are absolute scumbags. And usually at the end of it, there's something like the feeling that you had while watching it is gone. Yeah. And there's a different feeling there now.
Yeah, you'll have to watch like the one Ender clip. I can't believe he had the balls to do it. And he does, like, again, he doesn't usually step out into that realm, but like as a closer, he like sat down with one of like the conspiracy guys. And he's like, so you could accuse all these people and like being like child molesters and like eating babies. He's like, do you ever think that like some of that is projection? He's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I've got your criminal record here. This
Oh
is from
boy.
like whatever year where you admitted and pled guilty to like fucking an 8-year-old in the ass. He's like, are you saying this isn't you? He's like, well, no, but it's just like, oh my God. And you could tell he was super uncomfortable in that situation. Like his face is like beat red. I'm just like, I can't believe you sat across the table from that guy and like said that to his face.
Wow.
It's kind of incredible.
Yeah, that guy's gonna die at some point, right? Like,
Well, people will stop talking to him at some point, right? Especially with like this kind of exposure. Like this is everywhere. But
yeah,
I don't know. I think it's an eye opener, and I think it is pretty sad too. And it's pretty sad that a lot of the truth spoken in it will still fall on deaf ears to a large degree.
Mm-hmm.
But need to watch it though. Like it's crazy.
Yep. Yeah, I didn't even know that's what that was about.
Yeah. Yeah. Not as upbeat as the movie you watched, I see.
Well,
I assume you watched the new one. Is that correct?
yes, I did. I actually watched the old one a little while ago.
Oh.
And have you seen the new one now?
No. So Top Gun Maverick is what you watched, right?
Yes.
My wife has been wanting to watch it. I just haven't said all right yet. I mean, we'll get there.
Yep.
Is it the movie that everyone makes it out to be?
I think the last half hour is very good.
Okay.
The beginning part does all that bullshit where like, remember this, we're making this the same exact shot from the first one, here we go.
Jurassic World Dominion.
Yeah, so way too much of that shit. And then the second one is they're doing a Star Wars trench run. I don't know, they just stole it. I don't know why. Does anyone talk about
bullseyeing womp rats on a T-16 back home?
Not quite. Well, maybe there might be something somewhat related like that. I don't know.
Okay.
But it's the same mission. I'll say that. But the last bit when they actually carry out the full mission, real life, some good action. It's a good movie in that regard.
So let me ask you about the actor who's supposed to play Goose's son, because I've always found him to be not a particularly good actor or a convincing actor. How is he in this movie?
I feel like Tom Cruise just pushed everybody aside.
Okay.
In this to be like, I'm the star type thing.
So everybody else is just like side cannon fodder, doesn't matter.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, he probably is like the other main character because there's more baggage with all of that,
Sure.
But yeah, the rest of it, I don't know. There's so much of it that you can just tell that's like, this is just Tom Cruise being like, well, I'm the movie star. This can't happen. Or, there's even like he has like a relationship with a girl, and you have no idea who this girl is. Like, they don't reference it in the old movie. It's not the girl from the first movie.
Okay.
But it's just like, well, I have to have somebody.
Well, he's Tom Cruise, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, all of that
it could have been his actual wife, but he doesn't allow her to act anymore. So,
yeah, it's probably the most hilarious thing to me is, do you remember that trailer for The Mummy that he was in?
Yeah.
That they released without any extra audio during a certain segment.
Oh, I don't remember that part.
So they released this trailer, and it was screwed up. It was not done. And it was Tom Cruise like flipping around inside of an airplane that was falling. It was just him going, just all these grunts and like weird sounds. And that was it. It was just really weird. It was completely silent other than that. The last mission in this movie is basically him doing that. Like, there's no music, there's no nothing. It's him just like breathing hard.
You think it was intentional?
I don't know. But I think that part adds a lot to the movie, because it's not like the whole danger zone and just cool stuff. It was like, oh shit, I'm pulling 10 G's and this is what it would sound like, if I was a human doing that.
Being crushed alive.
Yeah. So it was just funny that there was a comparison to that.
Nice. Yeah, I'll have to check it out eventually. Like, I'm one of those people that like I've definitely seen the first one in bits and pieces. I've never sat all the way through it. Like, so I don't have like a ton of nostalgia for it. So I don't know if that's gonna hamper too much.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to check it out. I've got it. I've got HBO Max. It's on there, right?
Yep. Paramount.
Or
I think
Paramount.
it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got both. So
Yeah. I don't know. Like my wife was saying, like maybe they do all this because people haven't seen the first one.
yeah, I suppose. I mean, it's been
Were they doing all this stuff? But
30 years or 20
yeah,
some years.
I don't know.
That 90s show, is that out already?
No, do you see the trailer for it though?
No, yeah, I've seen a couple. I know there's a new one where they like show a few additional people. Looks like it's gonna be pretty good, at least the adults. I don't know about the kid actors or child actors.
Yeah. How much of that do you think is going to be Fez showed up for a 5-minute
Oh, a lot.
scene and then
Yeah.
that's it?
I'm guessing they're gonna bring everyone in as a guest spot through like every episode of that thing. Because it's gonna be the old actors carrying it, I have a feeling. Or Red
Yep.
and Kitty doing a lot of it.
Yep. But I feel like the main structure of the show is just the young kids, right? At least
Yeah.
that's the way they make it sound.
Yeah, it
But
seems like it.
I don't know.
I don't think that's gonna be the reason to watch though. Maybe I'm wrong.
Right. And if that's not the reason to watch, then how do you keep carrying that without the other guys really being involved?
Yeah. It's gonna be weird too, because like as someone who was a teenager in the 90s, I'll be curious as to like how accurately they capture any of the things that I experienced. Plus,
Mhm.
I don't know what year it's set. Is it like early 90s? Probably like
Yeah, I'm
92 or
not
something.
sure. I'm
I
not
feel like I
sure.
saw a date somewhere, but
It's weird because it all looks like the house still looks the same almost.
yeah, but I figured I'd chalk that up to like, once people get a certain age, they just stop renovating their house. So like
Yeah.
it always stays like 20 years back from like wherever you die.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's a weird thing. Or at least that's the way the old generations used to do it. Maybe people don't do that anymore, but I feel like my grandparents, it was like a time capsule.
Yep.
And my parents are slowly getting that way too. So
Yeah, there is yeah, I could definitely see that, I guess. Yeah.
yeah, I'm excited for it though. I think it like the trailer had me more hopeful than I think I was hearing that it was getting rebooted. So
Yeah. I
looking
mean,
forward to
I think if they make the new characters funny and good, I think then you got a shot.
yeah.
I think it'd be a pretty good show then.
Hmm.
I just if it's not, and then that's most of the show, I'm be like checked out if that's
Well, and knowing Netflix's nature too to like fund and then cancel everything immediately,
Mhm.
it's like this is probably going to be a one run and done. But
Yeah, we
I think
can't
if
get
it gets
Ashton
two
Kutcher
seasons, it'll
back,
be
so
lucky.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious. It's soon, right? Like it's first quarter of this year.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. Well, speaking of that, what about staff picks? Got any good nuggets?
Yeah. So I'll start off with a small one,
Okay.
just one to quick hit out of the way. Not really something pertaining to the kind of stuff that we are, the geeky stuff, but Ken Block, who is a drift master. He was, known for the Gymkhana YouTube videos where he would drift cars over doing all these insane stunts and stuff.
Okay.
He died in a snowmobile accident.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think like yesterday maybe. But yeah, so just kind of wanted to shout out those Gymkhana videos because those things were insane when they came out. They still are. It's Travis Pastrana has taken over doing those videos now, and he's kind of taken them to a next level a little bit. But
As he tends to do, I suppose.
yeah, he actually, I think the last one, like he jumped out of a hotel balcony And obviously there wasn't enough space for his parachute to really land him very well, so he broke his back or something like that.
Jeez.
But
Interesting.
yeah, if you've not seen any of those Gymkhana videos, even if you're not into cars, there's some pretty good stunts that they do
Okay.
in those.
Yeah, I was wondering. I saw a few tweets, but I wasn't familiar with who he was, so let's check it out.
Yep. And my other one is a game we picked up for the Switch called Ultimate Chicken Horse. Now, do you want to have any guesses on what this game
Horse?
is? Ultimate Chicken Horse.
Okay.
Any guesses on what this game is?
Um, half chicken, half horse platformer.
Well, you got platformer right, sort
Okay.
of. So it's a party game where you pick an animal like a raccoon or a chicken or a horse, and there's a simple point A and point B that you need to get to. And right away you can't get to it. So what you do is a box comes up called a party box, and it's full of different ledges or traps or a whole bunch of stuff, obstacles that each person can pick and place on the level.
Okay.
And then once everyone places it, everybody tries to get to the goal. And if they do, they get a point. Well, they only get points if somebody else doesn't make it to the goal. So it's a lot of like, I'm going to make this hard, but I also have to make it there as well.
Sure.
Because each round you get more stuff. And at the end of it, it's just utter chaos because you're layering things on top of other things. Because it's like, oh, I see how you got there. I'm going to stop you next time. And there's
It just
just,
constantly builds on the map.
yeah, there's just like fireballs and just hockey pucks flying everywhere and like spikes and there's a million different things that you can put in a level, but it's pretty fun. That
Sounds really
said,
good.
it would be nice to play with somebody who is a little bit more seasoned with platformers, because once you get like a little bit hard, then with the kids, then they're like, they can't quite make it, and then you're
What does this run?
dominating. $15, I think it was.
Okay.
It was probably
Is
on sale.
this a newer game?
No, it's been a few years now, I think. I remember when it came out a few years ago, wanting to pick it up,
Okay.
but finally
Sounds
got to
good.
it. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good multiplayer game for sure.
It'll probably end just as badly as Mario Party for us.
Yeah, it has some aspects of that because one person like you can definitely be a dick about it and put things. You could put a cannon and then put a spike immediately after the cannon, so all of a sudden when you were trying to get in the cannon to shoot over to the goal, now you can't do that. You get shot into a spike instead. But
Nice. That sounds really cool.
it's a good
It's a
risk
weird
reward.
name.
Yeah, I don't get the name at all, but
Maybe those were like really good SEO words. Ultimate chicken horse.
yeah, it's a good time because I mean it's kind of got that Mario Maker thing where you're like, I want to make this challenging, but I also have to beat it at the end.
Well, just everybody collectively doing it together at the same time is kind of cool.
Yep.
Just total chaos.
Yep.
Nice. I'm gonna check that one out for sure. My pick. I was thinking like I couldn't think of anything in particular. But I was thinking I've been watching a lot of on YouTube, going back to YouTube, channel Truck House Life. I'd say that's my pick. He's a guy out of Alaska who's got a 96 like Ford diesel, and he built a like little wooden mini log cabin on the back of it. Hence the truck
Yep.
house. I think his like full-time gig is he's like a driving instructor for like remote Alaska. Like flies out to like Barrow and stuff and like does road tests and but
He's
then
an ice road
also
trucker.
yeah, basically. But then basically, like he just like spends all his time outdoors. So he travels all over in this truck, does like whitewater rafting, fishing, 4-wheel drive because he can take his camper off. He'll go 4x4ing. But then like once a year for the last couple of years, he does like these big looping trips where he drives all the way down from where he lives in Alaska to the lower 48 and does a bunch of stuff along the way, Burning Man, various whitewater trips and music festivals. Then he heads back up. So he does like a burst of like 3 weeks where it's like daily videos of like his travels. And that's kind of where he's at right now is like tail end of like that. So he's been uploading a lot. Right now he's like, it's uploading. I suppose he's like maybe a month or so behind real time and where he's at, but he was going back up to Alaska through like some nasty shit in Canada as far as weather. So I know he's just like a really interesting dude, and he's probably, I don't know his exact age. I'd guess like maybe a few years younger than me, like maybe mid 30s, maybe upper 30s, but just his perspective on like, well, you can wait till you get old, but you might not make it, you know? He's like, or you can
Yeah.
just like live in the moment. And I was like, oh, that's amazing advice for someone who doesn't already have children.
Yeah.
Like I'm kind of
Not like
locked in here.
yeah. Can't go live in a truck, can you?
Yeah. It's like it's quite the life, but yeah, I don't know, he's just always doing cool stuff outdoors and like super upbeat and like friendly and does live streams a lot. And I don't know, it's just positive vibes in a overwhelmingly negative internet world. So
Yeah, that's cool.
check him out. There's a little something for everybody. He'll be getting into the big snowmobiling season and stuff. He did some cool shit last year where he like does these things where he'll snowmobile up to a summit and then he'll just like paraglide or like snowboard down and they'll like ghost ride their snowmobiles. So they'll just like throttle them off the mountain and just snowboard down to them. I'm like, man, that's the life.
Oh boy, yeah. Sounds like a good time.
Yeah. Makes me wonder how much money he needs to live on, but just the
After
diesel
we were just
alone.
talking about snowmobile accidents, but
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's true. Be
uh
careful.
yeah. Yeah, the diesel, just driving that diesel just to get anywhere that you want to go in
Yeah.
Alaska then too, you know?
Oh, I can't
Yeah.
imagine. I'm sure the cost of living up there is insane with that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
Yeah,
a good
what is it
channel.
with that like just YouTube videos that are so different from your life that it's just like comforting somewhat to gravitate toward them?
Right.
Like the guy who builds, the primitive technology houses and stuff like that. Like that I could watch those all day long too because it's just like, well,
Yeah.
it's not something I'm not gonna go out in the woods and make my own bricks out of
Right.
but I'll watch you do it.
Yep. I watch a lot of those guys too. It's like I'm making a dugout, like hidden fort in the woods. I'm like, all right, I got 40 minutes. Let's go. you know, I don't want to sleep in that, but good for you. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Well, is it time to get to the weekend rental?
I think so.
All right. So, for those of you uninitiated, the weekend rental is the game that we pick to play for the week for a given system. Give our thoughts. We'll decide whether we would buy, rent, or burn it at the end of our discussion. But the game this week is a different one. Usually we go with a retro system, which I guess we kind of hit that here, but is basically a retro modern game, and that's Garbage Pail Kids. While technically it was built on NES infrastructure and hardware in mind, and there is also a NES cartridge of it that launched with some stripped out features, of course, like rewind is gone and those sort of things. The version we played was the digital bundle that I think came out on pretty much everything. And it comes with a little package on the Switch is where we played it, $9.99. I think it's $9.99 everywhere, PS4, Xbox, Steam. Um, and yeah, it's at first I thought this was one of those games where they like found a ROM and like finished it out, and I was reading up more on it and it was like, no, they just
That's what they want you to
yeah,
believe.
and they pitched that kind of in the game itself. But this is basically just a game built in that style with Pail Kids, which would have been popular in the 90s. And around the time of the NES, 80s and 90s. And they built a platformer out of it. It ties very much into the nostalgia and the gross out factor of what the Garbage Pail Kids were. You get 4 playable characters that you can swap out to and from any given time. You can trade cards in the game to get power ups and one off things. And there are 6 stages slash worlds, depending on how you want to look at it. I'd say they're expanded stages. And it's basically what you've got is a simple action platformer game. That I don't know. It'd be very easy to think that this came out in 1989 or whatever on the
Yep.
NES.
Yep.
It kind of hit that.
Yeah.
What do you think of it?
I liked it quite a bit. Probably the one thing that I thought was like, okay, this might be something. It's maybe not more advanced than the NES. I just don't think it was something that people were doing
Sure.
back then. I think it was the card trading and the collection part of it.
Yeah.
Like I can't think of a game back then that had a mechanic like that.
YY World had like some stuff like that in the Famicom.
Okay, sure.
Or Wagon Land or whatever. Not YY World, that's a different
Okay.
game. But nothing even like that was end of level sort of stuff.
Yep. I mean, this
Wagon
has
Land.
pretty good 8-bit art of those cards.
Yes.
Yeah,
considering how small the resolution is, like it does a
Yeah.
pretty good job of like representing what they're going for.
Yep. And it's got a lot of that original set in there.
Mhm.
Of course you play as four of them, like you said. And there's some that turn you into the other powers like flying and stuff like that.
Yeah, temporary.
Yeah, which I didn't really use too many of those.
No.
Because I wanted to keep them. I wanted to keep the cards.
Same.
But yeah, so what are the levels you got? You got BC, basically like prehistoric times. You got Egypt, Tokyo, 1985.
Yep. Hell.
Yep.
The
Transylvania.
moon 2050, which is just basically a trash dump for humanity, apparently.
Yep. Yeah. And Transylvania.
Yes, which is basically more of a stab at aping on Castlevania than I felt like any certain time period, I feel like.
Yep. That was the one I did not enjoy. I didn't like that level.
Yeah.
Most of them I did. There was a lot of different rooms, like one-off rooms. I guess that's another thing in NES games that you didn't see too often. Whereas like really highly detailed one-off rooms that you'd get into.
And I think that's like, and some of them were just there for jokes, but I think that's where this game falls apart for me is games just weren't built like that for the NES, and that was for a reason. Is these levels are way too long for their own good. I would say in some of them the level design is downright bad. And yeah, it's just I felt like in almost every case, there's like maybe 2 exceptions on levels. I started out having a good time, and then by like the half or third way through the mark, I'm just like, this sucks. Like it's just screen after screen of the same like repetitive enemies. Because let's be honest, like none of the 4 characters you get are all that fun to control. Like they're all like kind of hampered in some way, except for maybe like the main guy who's just your hack and slash dude. So like I never felt like any of the controller or any of the characters really controlled in a way that I loved. And the game isn't like super tight control wise. So you just end up with these like super long, expansive levels that in my opinion should have been worlds broken into 2 or 3 stages instead of them trying to do like the checkpoint thing that they use. That stuff works in the context of playing this on a new platform, but I wouldn't want to do that on an NES. Like I wouldn't want 6 stages. I'd want 6 worlds with 3 stages in them. I think is a better fit.
Yeah. And you got a great point there. There's a lot of the screens where you're just it's just like little humps of platforms with some enemies sporadically like just going back and forth on it, and it's like that's pretty, I don't know, pretty boring to get through. And then you would hit those those screens where it's like really detailed stuff and a really good sense of place.
Yes.
And then the next screen after that would just be like, okay, here's just basically like the same ledge over and over and over.
Yes. And there's some like, yeah, really, like you said, like the really detailed rooms are cool. There's some nice like background art, like especially like the Tokyo one where I thought it was people performing things on each other in the background of the windows, where you realize no, it's just a guy puking into a toilet,
Okay. Yeah.
which is also funny. But I shouldn't have to look that hard to know. Um, but yeah, I think that's kind of where the game fell apart for me. And also, to your point, I don't think the trading card thing is enough of a game changer to make it. I mean, it's cool, but it's almost unnecessary. And then the bonus, like porta potty fishing game in every level, is just downright not fun and takes way too much
Mhm.
time. So I've after the first time, I just stopped playing it. I just avoided it
I
because I didn't
I
like it.
couldn't I couldn't figure out how to do it until the very last one where I finally got one fished up. But
Yeah, it's it's like a low rent DDR sort of like button timing thing.
yeah.
Um, what I will say too is when I was playing this is like kind of back to the level design and like the detail is there's a certain weakness in like understanding the path in the level design, like in knowing where is a path, where's death, what doors you can go into, what are interactable objects, and a lot
Mhm.
of that comes down to um, the design of the game and the color palettes used and the busyness of the textures and the backgrounds and the foregrounds, which was something that I found myself being very familiar with. And being a big NES collector and homebrew fan, I kept thinking, I've played stuff like this, like Haunted Halloween and Haunted Halloween 86. This is built on those bones. It's retrotainment. It's the exact same people.
Same people, huh?
They just put
Mm.
Garbage Pail Kids on top of Halloween 85 and 86, which Halloween 85 and 86, 86 especially, are great homebrew games, but they suffer from the same aesthetic that makes them a little more convoluted in cases or a little harder to decipher jumps and objects because they're pretty ambitious in what they put on screen, but sometimes more is less. I think it takes away from the game and the navigation in some points. So once I put that connection together, I was like, one, impressed with the what they were able to do building upon those games, because you definitely can tell that this is the most fleshed out version of that engine, what they've done and built. But then also like a lot of the pitfalls were the same as I played on the earlier games. So
Sure. So the design really hasn't changed that much. That's
no,
kind of unfortunate.
yeah, yeah. The level design and like the continuity and visuals is always the weakest point of those, and
Mhm.
it tends to be the same thing here. It's worth noting too that Adam F. Goldberg wrote the script for this game.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty good.
So if you're a Goldberg's fan, that's pretty cool.
Huh. There's a well, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but the one that I didn't really understand was the baby. I don't know what his attack was.
The rubbery face dude.
Yeah.
So he's Mario. He butt stomps.
Oh,
So
okay.
he can jump higher and he just butt stomps. Yeah, it took me
Okay.
a long time to figure that out too. He's probably the most versatile character because, as I mentioned, like with the levels going on too long, at some point in all of these levels, at least where it made sense, I just started jumping over everything on screen
Yep.
because I got sick of trying to shoot them all.
Yep.
So he became like my go-to guy until you inevitably fall in a hole that you weren't sure you could fall down or weren't aware was there, which is the lamest part of this game is like you've got four characters, but then you come across these like stupid, like kind of intentionally dickish, like pit areas where there's an enemy there to knock you back.
Yep.
And then you fall. And once you're out all four characters, you got to start back over.
Yep.
And that can happen. Like you can go most of the game and that's not an issue, but then in 30 seconds, you can lose all your characters in one
Yeah.
spot.
Yeah, that Transylvania one was
Yes.
really
Help.
messing with me. bats and just everything. There's so much stuff in that level. The other ones not so. Most of them were not that hard
Right.
overall, but
The Tokyo
yeah.
one had that dock area with some of those enemy
Oh
placements
yeah.
was just
Yep.
shitty. Just
Yep.
downright shitty. Well, and hell was pretty bad with that too, but I mean it's hell, so you kind of got to
Yeah.
expect that.
It's the last level. Yep.
So,
Yeah, and what the story is, like he's trying to just find disgusting stuff for a recipe for his gum, right?
for stale gum, which the inside joke there being, Garbage Pail Kids were made by Tops, and Tops always put a stick of super hard, super crusty gum in there. Whether you bought baseball cards or Garbage Pail Kids, it was always shitty by the time you got it.
Yep. Yeah, that's they must be doing a kind of a resurgence of Garbage Pail Kids. I mean, with this game,
Yeah.
they must
Well, I
be
know they're making
probably
cards. I
putting
mean, they've
card.
been making cards for a few years, but
Yep.
I see more merch in stores now too. Like they're licensing out stuff to Funko and
Okay, so there's a couple videos in this package as well.
yes,
I don't know if you watched any of those.
I did watch both of them.
Okay, so the animated one was a parody of Mad Max.
Yeah. In like a stop
Kind of,
motion robot chicken style.
yes. However, I think that was a really bad decision because I mean these things are basically based off of Cabbage Patch Kids. Most people probably don't even
Right.
most younger people don't even know what that is or anything. But putting them in that like 3D animation style, they look like Funko Pops. Like they were almost Funko Pops to me, and I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, I didn't think
And
about that, but you're right.
maybe that's what they're making fun of too, because that's kind of what they were doing with the Cabbage Patch thing. Um, that was a short. I mean,
Yeah.
they they went all over on the Mad Max stuff.
Yeah, they really went hard on the gross out humor too. It was
Yeah.
a cool inclusion. It was like a 10-minute short. And then the other one was like a coming soon, like origin story where like they found this hidden NES game and like they had Chris Kohler and shit. Like I was like, wow, they
Oh,
really went for it.
that was hilarious. Where yeah, they're basically making the documentary about kind of like the ET story, the ET
Yes.
cartridge where they're digging shit up, and
Yep.
but it goes farther where they're sending things down to the bottom of the ocean and into space trying to find these cartridges
Yeah.
of this Garbage Pail Kids that game that was canceled because it was so raunchy.
Yeah, I thought that was a nice touch. And then, it's worth noting, like in the digital bundle, you also get like music. You can do sound from all the levels. There's an NES style manual to thumb through. There's
Mhm.
some concept art stuff. So there's for $10, this is a very simple game. But it's a nice little package that they put together for you, like a nostalgia fueled package. Like if you're into Garbage Pail Kids, you're gonna get a kick out of it. And it's it's definitely worth the $10. I'm an NES guy and I am glad because I hovered on the cartridge, but I'd have been pissed paying $80 for this. I don't care if it comes with a box and
Yeah.
that's too much for me. I know it came with a digital version too, but it's not that good of a game to justify 80. Like I would pay a homebrew price like $50 loose cart. That's fine.
Yep.
But
It is cool though that homebrew stuff is starting to rise above that licensed money
yes.
type shit because until now I can't think of another thing that's really done that.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. Did you get through the whole game then?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I did too. I think the highlight of the game, beyond like just kind of like the grossness factor is probably the boss fights. Not so much that they're good. I think they're kind of like run of the mill boss fights, but just like the animation in most of them
Mhm.
is very cool and like very large sprites. Ironically, like a couple of them are just weird in like I feel like Satan and I feel like the vampire ones did not fit the rest of the game as far as boss battles went, but
Yeah.
um still very cool. Probably the highlight of the game. Just to see like a really giant sprite on an old NES style game is cool, like a whole screen full.
Yep.
Um,
I like the hotel in that last level too, where you're just kind of going through all the different rooms
oh yeah,
and through
yeah,
the elevators and shit like that.
yes, yeah. I like that one room in Hell too, where it's like you get in there and there's like a store and it's just like 400 pitchforks on a wall. It's like we sell pitchforks and only pitchforks. Like that's a nice
Uh,
touch. Uh,
yep.
yeah.
The maps section too. There's a whole section that shows the maps of all the levels, and that holy shit, that made me
Yes.
think of all those Nintendo powers that had all that shit in there too,
Yeah, that was a cool
Pretty
touch.
cool.
Especially like I could see that being useful for a couple of the later levels where it's just like Hell and the Transylvania ones, like those maps were jacked up.
Yep. How
Which
many
again,
cards how many cards did you get?
I don't know. I didn't really keep track, I
Oh,
guess.
okay. Mine said I missed 2 of them at the
Okay.
end.
Well,
So I don't know
that's
where they
one other
are.
thing we should mention too is like in addition to the four characters, there is like there aren't really aside from the cards, there aren't too many like in-game power-ups except the fact that you can like knock over garbage cans and spell trash on screen. And once you collect trash, you basically hold A and B, and it's Super Mario
Invincible.
like invincible. Yeah, which is easy enough to collect as you're playing.
Yep.
Pretty limited in how long it lasts and like where you want to use it, but because again, I don't feel like any of the enemies are too hard. It's mostly just like the barrage that they throw at you that gets you more than anything.
Yeah.
It's mostly the
Yeah.
platforming sections that are the real enemy in this game.
Yep. Pretty much. Yeah, I used all those on the boss, and half the time I felt like, "Oh, I probably didn't need to," because the patterns on them seemed pretty easy.
Yeah. Yeah, minus a couple lame ones where you have to like bounce objects at a certain time,
Oh, yeah.
which is
Yep.
never super fun, but still not overly challenging. So were you a Garbage Pail fan as a kid, or did you kind of miss on that?
Yeah, I think they were kind of past me by the time I would have been that age.
I kind of feel like that was almost my case too. Like I was at the tail end of maybe like the first big run. So like I was definitely aware of them, but I was never like I never collected them really. I knew what they were.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean I'm guessing this package has a lot more nostalgia for someone who's like hardcore into it, but a lot more probably references and inside jokes and characters that you recognize.
Right. Yeah. I love that the character in Hell is just like a greaser that you meet.
I do like too that there's a whole screen in Hell where it's just like bathrooms out of order and then like 500 people in line to take a
Yep.
piss.
No bathrooms. Yeah.
This is a nice
Uh,
touch. So I mean, I think we kind of did a pretty good job covering it. But like, what's your verdict then? What would you give it on the Byron Burn scale?
so I'm gonna say for $10, like that's
Sure.
the qualifier.
Yes.
This is a buy. If this was a $60 NES cart that your parents had to buy you, uh,
Yes.
I guess they can buy it for you. You're still not out the money, but it might not be the best decision on their part.
Right.
And I guarantee you they weren't probably like, "Oh yeah, we got to get him that
Yes.
that puking and fart game." But I'll say a buy. It was enjoyable enough. It's not. I mean, it's no daddish. I'll say for
No. Yeah, I don't
a
feel like it leaves a
platformer.
lasting impression. I mean, it's like a ingesting like a good episode of like Robot Chicken or something.
Yep.
Um, I mean, given the context, like you said, of 9.99, I would probably say buy two. But if we're taking price out of the equation and just being honest, I'd say this is more of like almost a rent for me. Like this doesn't have legs. Like this is I'll play through it once, um, and
I don't even think. Yeah.
get my chuckles out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the price point, the package they've got here, and the fact that this is probably going to be on sale very soon for less than $10, it's worth
Hmm.
checking out. And it's just cool to support stuff where they're like making retro games that still function on the old hardware.
Yep.
And these guys are very skilled at it. Like I highly recommend anyone who's listening to this who hasn't checked out Haunted Halloween 85 and 86 for the NES to do those two. I think those are some of the best early homebrew games. Like they really were leaps and bounds better than what other people were doing at the time.
Hmm.
Obviously there's a lot of competition now, but they still hold up.
I have an NES maker, so someday I'll be that competition apparently. But
Yeah, how's that going for you?
mm, somewhere around here, I have no idea where it's at.
It's always next year.
Yep.
Well, with that one out of the way, I suppose this is another episode wrapped, huh?
Yeah. So I'd like to hear if any of our listeners were into Garbage Pail Kids and what their favorite one was. So you can send that to weekendrentalpodcast@gmail.com, or you can send it right over as a DM or just a reply to anything on our Twitter. And till next time, be kind, rewind.
Boogers.